Hey, welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is the Toyota Crown. And earlier this year, we spent some time with it in Texas, but now I've been able to spend a week with it at home. And the question is, have my thoughts changed at all? So today, we're gonna hit the best and the rest, starting with the rest. Okay, the first thing that we're going to talk about is price. And price is really the biggest issue that I have with this car. But we're going to talk about a couple faults that this thing has, but they all would be more excusable at a bit of a lower price point. Now, the Toyota Crown here starts around $40,000. However, we have the top of the top, the hybrid max powertrain, the platinum trim. We've got the two-tone paint, which is almost $1,000. And that means this thing comes in at like $54,000, almost $55,000. And that's a lot. Now that's with destination, but it's a lot. Now the VW Arteon starts at more, $43,000, but fully spec'd out, it's gonna be almost $4,000 less than what we're in here in the Hybrid Max Platinum. And then there's the Kia Stinger, which starts around $37,000, so $3,000 less than where this thing starts. And then all the way maxed out, it's still about $2,000 less than the way we are in the Crown right now. And that's for the twin-turbo V6 rear-biased all-wheel drive. Like, that is a proper sports sedan, that Stinger, and it's still less money than you get here. And then there's stuff like the Nissan Maxima, but that's pretty old at this point. And then there's the Chrysler 300, which you can get a big V8, but if you're looking at a Toyota Crown, it's hybrid only, so you're probably not super interested in the 300. And this category is brought to you by the little things that annoyed me for the size and the price of this thing. First of all, the trunk isn't power opening, and at $55,000 almost, I think it kind of should be. And the hood still uses a prop rod, not struts. And the materials look good. They're kind of like a flipped house. They look good from a distance, and the closer you get, you start to see where they save some money. Like the Venza we were in a year or two ago felt more Lexus light than the Crown does here. And the rear seat headroom is not great, and we'll talk about that later. Again, not things that are deal breakers or a huge deal in any means, but just some things that I thought were a little bit surprising to see at the size and the price point here. And we just touched on this a little bit, but I have some thoughts on the trunk. It's not an objectively bad thing. It's got reasonable practicality. It's got a nice big opening, but I can't stand the little offset tiny ass release button on the outside. It's not a power opening gate, again, weird for the money. And the main rivals, the Arteon and the Stinger, are liftbacks, where this is a more normal sedan trunk. And I would have thought for sure with the sloping roofline that you get here that they would have made this a liftback. And speaking of the sloping roofline, that brings up the thing about the back seats. I legitimately just can't sit in the back seats of this car without my head rubbing on the ceiling, even if I take my hat off. The roof is sloped aggressively for exterior styling and it looks great, and there's a cutout for your head back here as there usually is, but it's too small for normal heads, which I consider mine to be. And aside from that, the legroom is good, the seats are comfy, and you do have heated seats back here in the Platinum, and you get vents and chargers. I did kind of expect there to be a dedicated climate zone that you could control back here, but compared to the head thing, it's just not as big of an issue. But then talking about the places that this thing shines. The first is power. And this thing is fast. Here in the Platinum trim, you get the Hybrid Max powertrain as standard. And what that means is you get the 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with 2 electric motors, 340 horsepower, and a bunch of torque. They don't have a specific number that they claim, but a lot of torque. Goes through a 6-speed automatic rather than a CVT. You'll love to see it. It gets E all-wheel drive, so it'll send electric power to the back if it detects slip or if it just needs to send more power. And 0 to 60 is done just over 5 seconds. I mean, that is proper quick in a hybrid full-size sedan. But there's a catch though. All that power comes at a cost. The Hybrid Max here is rated at 30 mpg combined. Objectively not bad, pretty decent fuel economy, especially for having almost 350 horsepower. But if you want more fuel economy, don't get the Hybrid Max, get the normal hybrid, get a limited hybrid, because that'll get you almost 40 mpg combined, which is significantly better. And the other thing is, the Platinum does get adaptive suspension here, and it gets like 6 different drive modes. But I wouldn't go so far as to call it a sports car. It's got skinnier, more fuel economy minded tires, and it's been raised up, and it's not gonna corner like a sports sedan. The Kia Stinger is going to be the best driving sedan of the trio that we're talking about here. But ultimately that's okay because this thing rides well, and we'll talk about that more later. So it's fast, it's pretty efficient, and it also has a pretty nice interior here. Now I will say black is the only interior color you get on the Platinum, but that's okay because it also gets the cool gold accents that I love so much in the Grand Highlander. And it matches really well with the exterior paint. You get heated seats front and rear, you get cooled seats up front, and you get a heated steering wheel. And then you get great tech features like a 12-inch digital cluster. It's a bit busy and it's not super customizable, but I guess it's nice. You don't have a head-up display, which is a little bit strange, but you do have a 12-inch center screen, which gives you great stuff like wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You get over-the-air updates, so your system is always fresh. And you've got nice 360 cameras, and you can even change the color of your crown in there. So the livability from the interior here is pretty nice. And you know earlier I said that this thing doesn't handle like a sports car? Well, it doesn't, and honestly, that's fine because most of the time, when you take something like a full-size family sedan that's been raised up 4 inches, the only way to make it sporty is to make the suspension ungodly stiff, and that ruins the ride. So Toyota has stayed self-aware here, and they've left the pillowy and smooth and soft ride. You do get adaptive suspension here on the Platinum, and it does stiffen up if you want it to, but at no point does it ever come at the cost of the ride quality. It's a big floaty boat with a bunch of power, and I like it for that. And I know some people are pretty polarized by the looks of this thing, but I think it looks pretty good. The Crown kind of introduced the new design language for Toyota when it came out. You've got simple LED runners, you've got an elegant face, and this thing looks like it has a big grille, but it's largely fake. Here you get the two-tone paint with aged bronze metallic, and I love it, but if you don't, maybe don't spend the $900 on the two-tone. But around the side you have huge 21-inch wheels that look cool, and you can see from the profile that this car is 4 inches longer than a Camry and sits 4 inches higher than a Camry. And you can see some of that is ride height and step-in height, which makes it easier to get in and out. And then around back, it is very classy in terms of design with the thin tail bar and crown spelled out, and no gaudy exhaust that would be unbecoming of a modern hybrid. Ultimately, I like the look. Do I like it as much as an Arteon SEL? No. Do I like it as much as a Kia Stinger GT2? No. But I like the aged bronze metallic, and overall I still like it. And then, this thing is kind of alone by itself. I know we've talked about a couple other cars throughout this video, but the reality is they're going away. VW is killing off the Arteon, Kia is killing off the Stinger, the Nissan Maxima, I don't even know, but probably is getting axed, and the Chrysler 300 don't, I guess, I don't know. So by this time next year, there's a distinct possibility that the Crown here is going to be the last one standing, and with that, I think it's time to strap the GoPro on and have a little bit of a drive. Okay. We're gonna go through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drive modes, throw it in Sport Plus. Oh. And 60. There it is. I'm gonna take it out of Sport Plus and put it in Comfort mode because I think that's kind of where this thing shines. I will say it has plenty of power. It does 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds. It has like almost 350 horsepower. It's got a buttload of torque. It's fast, okay? It is fast. At no point does it have the inclination of like a sports sedan though. This is not something that you're even gonna consider taking to a racetrack. This is something that you just want something big and comfy for your family with enough power to overtake on the highway or whatever, or feel spunky on the road, and it does. One thing I will say is the way that it makes power is seemingly programmed in a way to make it feel lighter, to make it feel smaller. Like the second that I come off the brake and like even get 1% into the throttle, it feels like peak electric torque coming through because it feels very much like electric torque, and then the turbo comes in, so it does feel very peppy off the line, which I think a lot of people will like. And it's managing to do that with, 28 mpg. This has been mostly side streets too, so you're gonna have plenty of performance from this thing. But the way that the hybrid system, I mean, it's a Toyota hybrid, right? So the handoff is great. It's gonna be pretty reliable, probably. The only thing that I'll say is the driving position here, just the way that the cabin is oriented, does feel kind of tight. And that's kind of a theme that I've noticed throughout driving this thing is for the size, it does feel kind of tight. Like the driving position here, it's comfortable. I sit a little bit higher than maybe I would want to. I don't have as much headroom as I might like, but it's comfortable. But it does feel a little bit snug. And in the back seat, as we talked about, it does feel snug. And I guess just snugger than I was thinking I would feel based on the size of this car. But then back to the driving impressions, which is really what we're talking about here. it's very easy to drive. The visibility is great. The steering is light and, you know, has no feedback, but the suspension is really light and floaty. You do get the adaptive suspension on the Platinum here. But again, this thing shines in comfort mode or eco mode when you're gonna just kind of bop around. The cabin is nice and quiet and comfortable. And when you want to throw it up into Sport Plus, it'll do Sport Plus-y type things. But you can just tell the second that you get to a corner, it prefers to be a more normal car. And I think that that's fine. If you really want the most sporty driving car, then I would unequivocally and categorically go with the Stinger, especially because you can get the twin turbo with the rear biased all-wheel drive for a couple grand less money than you're getting here. If you want maybe the best looking, I would say the VW Arteon, but this thing does everything pretty well and it is very efficient, and I like the fact that you can get a hybrid, and the Hybrid Max powertrain is great. It's just honest about what it is. It's still a Toyota family, you know, flagship sedan, and I think it looks cool. And I think with that, we probably get into the final thoughts. And that is the best in the rest of the Toyota Crown. And it's fine. It makes great power. If fuel economy is more your bag, then you'll go with the normal hybrid over the Hybrid Max. But it looks great, the interior is nice, and the ride is great. So if it's my money, I'm gonna buy a Camry hybrid. But that's just me. But thank you to Toyota for letting us have a go in their new Crown, and we'll see you in the next one.